element. In truss element, we have seen how to derive your transformation matrix, and thereafter we have also seen how to derive your stiffness matrix. Okay, so a fast glimpse I will show you so that what we discussed yesterday, it will be revision for you people, and we will also see one type of numerical. Like yesterday, we have seen that balcony truss problem. So how to solve that kind of problem we will see today, and then after that we will see your beam element, the derivation for your beam element, how to derive your beam element, that we will see. Okay, so let's start. I will start the screen share. So before starting today's lecture, I would like to ask one thing, that yesterday I have taken the class using my digital writing board, and before that I was using this blackboard and chalk. So which one do you prefer, or you find it easy to understand, or how better way of explaining the concept? Which one do you prefer? One by one I want to know from all of you.
Digital only, sir. Blackboard, sir.
Digital, okay,
Blackboard, sir.
50-50. Next, blackboard, 2 votes for blackboard. Next, next, 321, 18 series, and 306. Unmute yourself and give your voting. I want to know the general opinion of the students. 19 series, 323. I have delivered yesterday's lecture using digital board. Before that, I was using this blackboard and chalk to explain the concepts. So which mode of instruction you find it easier to understand? Okay, so I will keep on rotating the things, whichever is more means topic wise. Like this topic that can be explained on board easily, then I will use this blackboard. Because here physical interaction kind of feeling comes to the students, I have observed. If you feel that that digital board is good, so I will give the lecture on that also. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, this is the beam element. Before this, I would like to give you the idea of how to solve this balcony truss problem. Okay. So this figure you have seen yesterday, whether my uh, screen is visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now let's focus on the numerical. Okay. Here you can see we have, if you people keep on joining like this, then the rhythm of this lecture will be broken, because I have to switch the screen from this PDF to your team software and accept your invitation. So try to join the class on time. Okay. Now, here see and try to understand the problem. Okay, this is the first thing, that in question what it is asking. First point. Second point is you have to focus how you have to develop, or what is the method that you have to adopt to solve this problem. Okay, so these two things you have to follow. Rest solution you will get automatically. Okay. So here in this problem, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 elements we have here, and for this we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 nodal points. Okay. So as we have discussed yesterday, can anyone tell me in the class how many degree of freedom will be there for one truss element?
2, sir.
Yes, for one truss element, for one node you have 2 degrees of freedom. Okay, so for one element you will be having 4 degrees of freedom. Okay, so here if you see 5 nodes are there, and on every node we have 2 degrees of freedom. So here the order of your global stiffness matrix will be 10 cross 10. This first thing you must keep in your mind. Degree of freedom into degree per node. Okay, that you have to multiply, so you will get your global stiffness matrix order. Okay. So see, consider the balcony truss shown in this figure. We are interested in determining the deflection of each joint. Here there are 5 joints. So we are interested in finding the deflection of each joint where their material property they have written E value as 1.9 into 10 raised to the power 6 LB. Here L pound per inch square. Okay, worry about this. This is some foreign author book, so they are following pound and inch. But in our country, we follow Newton per mm square. Okay, here the cross-sectional area of each element of this balcony truss is given, that is 8 inch per square. Okay, we are interested in calculating average stress. Okay, we are interested to determine deflection of each joint. So now the question is how to start solving this problem. First, you have to select, like for any finite element method, you have to select which element you are going to select. Okay, which type of element you are going to select. So here we are going to use your truss element, and first thing you have to do, you have to create a table like this, and you have to write element numbers. Here we have 6 elements. So here it is written 6 elements over here. Okay. Now each element is made up of 2 nodes. So node numbers are mentioned here. Okay. Like for suppose element number 5. As per this table, element number 5 is made by joining node 2 and node 5. So let's cross check it. Element number 5 made up of node number 2 and node number 5. Okay, and one more thing that you have to observe, each element is making some angle with your horizontal axis. Okay, each element is making some angle with your horizontal axis. So can you tell me what angle this element number 1 is making?
It's horizontal, no, sir.
It's horizontal, so its angle is 0 degree.
0.
Okay. Similarly, for this element number 5, if here you
Sir,
can see it is 3 feet, here it is 3 feet, means this length is equals to this length. Okay, and this is 90 degree. So sum is 180. 90 plus this plus this. So summation of this angle and this angle is 90 degree. So they are
45 degrees.
45 degrees angle. So hence you can calculate this angle also as your 45 degrees. So likewise you can see all the angles are mentioned over here regarding all the elements, like element 1 is making 0 degree, element 2 is making 45 plus 90, it is 135 degree. Element 3 is horizontal, element 6 is horizontal, so they are making 0 degree. Okay. Now coming to 4, element number 4 is vertical, so it is making 90 degree, and element number 5 is making your 45-degree angle. Okay, so that is what here written for all the elements. Okay, now after this, the next step is you have to calculate your stiffness, the stiffness of each and every element. Okay, so as we are discussing from the first lecture, the mathematical expression for your stiffness will be A, where A is your cross-sectional area, E is the modulus of elasticity, and L is the length of your element. Okay, so all the three values are given in your numerical. Uh, Cross-sectional area is 8 inch per square. Okay, E modulus of elasticity is given 1.9 into 10 raised to the power 6, and length of the element is given 36 inch. So from here, for different element length, suppose this one is 3 inch, this one is 3 inch, this vertical is 3 inch, this length, element number 2 and element number 5, their length is different. You have to use your Pythagoras theorem to calculate your length of element number 5. Okay. So then you will get this value, this L value, and from there you can get the value of K. Now you have to see what we have derived yesterday. Okay, the stiffness matrix. If you you have revised what we have studied yesterday, then you must remember this matrix that you can see at the bottom of your page on the screen, that stiffness matrix represented by capital K equals to the small k. The small k is what? The magnitude what you have calculated here. And here small e is written. Can anyone in the class tell me what is the significance of this small e?
Element.
Yes, please try. Uh, what E is representing here? Small e.
Elements, sir, elements.
Is representing the element number. You must keep in your mind. E is representing, and as to calculate for each every element, you can see that table. You can see here that how many are making 0 degree. Element number 1, element number 3. You can check here 3 and 6. They are completely horizontal, so they are making 0 degree. You can put here theta equals to 0, and you can develop your element stiffness matrix. Yes, yes. Someone is saying something.
Voice is breaking, sir.
Yes. What is breaking? You are saying.
Sir, your voice is
Okay,
breaking,
okay.
sir.
Let me switch to my hotspot. Okay, okay. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, now tell me whether my voice is clearly audible. Yes? Can you hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's focus on to the solution of this problem. Here you can see, as I was telling you, element number 1, element number 3, element number 6, they are horizontal. So their theta values are 0 degree, as you can see here in your table also. So simply you put theta equals to 0 degree, okay, and you can calculate your element stiffness matrix K for 1. See, for element number 1, in place of theta, we substituted 0 degree. So cos square theta means cos 0 square, cos 0 is 1. Okay, so square will be also 1. Okay, similarly, sine 0 into cos 0. Sine 0 is 0, so multiplication of anything with 0 will become 0. Similarly, you substitute your theta value equals to 0 and you will get this matrix. Okay, so here the thing to be observed is here K, here at the top you can see it is written 1. It means that this stiffness is for element number 1. And as I have told you earlier also, for one element we have two nodes. Okay, so for one node we have 2 degree of freedom, like here you can see capital U1x. It is representing degree of freedom of node number 1 in x direction. This second is showing degree of freedom of node number 1 in y direction. This is telling you degree of freedom of node number 2 in x direction. Similarly, this is your degree of freedom of node number 2 in y direction. Okay, so for every element now it is clear that the order of stiffness of matrix will be 4 cross 4. For individual element I am saying. For overall the problem of that balcony truss that we are considering, it will be 10 cross 10. But how we will reach up to there, just wait and watch. Okay, now,
Sir,
Steve, yes,
cos square 0 equal to 1, sir.
cos square,
0 equal to 1, no, sir.
yes,
Then why we are
Cos-
putting a -1, sir?
yes. See here, this minus sign is not inside your bracket of this square term. Okay, minus is outside and then it is cos square theta. It is not like minus cos theta, complete bracket and then square. Okay, so you have to first evaluate the value of cos square theta, that is 1, and then you can square it. So 1 into 1 it will be 1 only, and minus sign is outside that square term over here. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so you can see here for all the elements here. Here also you can get minus cos square theta. So cos theta is 1, cos square theta will be 1 into 1, that will be 1, and minus sign is outside, so it will become -1 like that. Okay. Now, this is your element stiffness matrix for element number 1. Similarly, you can calculate for your element 3 and element 6. This is the stiffness matrix for individual element. Now, you can place this in your global stiffness matrix. Now, as I have told you earlier also, that here we have 5 nodes, node 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. 5 nodes. At every node you have 2 degrees of freedom. So 5 into 2 will become 10. Okay. So the order of global stiffness matrix will be 10 cross 10. So this is your global stiffness matrix that you can see on your computer screen. Okay. Now, what are those 10 elements you can see here? U1x, U1y, U2x, U2y. Like up to here only we have seen in your element number 1. Okay. So after that, similarly you will see for 3, 4 and 5. And now here you can see the suffix written over here is 1 capital G. Now the meaning of this, K is representing stiffness matrix, 1 is representing that this is the stiffness matrix for element number 1, and this capital G is representing that this is global stiffness matrix. So we know that global stiffness matrix is of the order 10 cross 10. So now in this you have to put your values, what you have calculated here, you have to substitute this value in this global stiffness matrix. This point is clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now coming to your element number 3. Element number 3 is same as we have calculated for 1. As you can see here, 1, 3 and 6, they all are of equal length. 1, 3 and 6, they all are of equal length. Okay. And their K values we have calculated over here, 4.22 into 10 raised to the power 5. So now we have calculated stiffness matrix for element number 3, and then we have placed or positioned that K matrix into your global stiffness matrix. Here you can see K3G. Okay, so they have written it part by part for better understanding. Okay, individually you can calculate for K1, K2, K3, K4 and K5, and you can directly do or write your global stiffness matrix with the method what we have discussed in the previous chapter. Okay, so here you can see K3 is therefore UX3, U3Y, U4X, U4Y. So you can see here U3X, U4Y, U4X, U3Y and U4Y. That same matrix you have to keep it over here. Okay, and 10 raised to the power 5 we have taken common outside. Okay, so this is how you can write your individual stiffness matrix, and then you can put that into your global stiffness matrix. Okay, this is for element number 1, 3 and 6. Their values are same. That's why we have written like this. Now coming to your element number 4. For element number 4, theta is 90 degree. So we have put theta, substituted theta equals to 90 degree, and then we have obtained this K4. This is your K4 matrix. Now, as we have done previous, you have to substitute this into your global stiffness matrix. Likewise, you can calculate for element number 2, where theta is, let's check it out. Yes, someone is saying something?
Global position matrix.
Yes. You are asking for global stiffness matrix. Some background noise is coming. Please mute. Please mute. Some background noise is coming. Okay. So see here, for element number 2, it is making an angle of 135. Okay. It is making an angle of 135 degrees. Okay. So let's move on to our element number 2. Here the angle is 135. So we have calculated the stiffness matrix for element number 2. And based on this sine and cos calculation, you have obtained this 4 cross 4 matrix. Now coming to your question. One student just asked me that we have written this element stiffness matrix, then how we are converting or how we are substituting this value in your global stiffness matrix. So see here its position. Element number 2 is made by joining element number 2 and element number 3. So you can see here on the right hand side. Okay, element number 2x, u2y, u3x, u3y. Okay, now you have to find out in your global stiffness matrix where is that position. Where is that position? So u3, u2x, u2y, u3x, u3y. Similarly, from this side also you can write u2x, u2y, u3x, u3y. And you have to cross check that what are those intersecting points, and then you have to write these values. Is that clear to you? Just one student just asked me about this global stiffness matrix. Now tell me whether it is clear to you.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now coming to your element number 5. Similarly, we will calculate for each and every element, and directly you can assemble your global stiffness matrix like this. See here, it seems to be very bigger one. Okay, but don't worry. I am showing you this problem with 10 degrees of freedom, but in your examination, uh, you can maximum get for 3 or something like that. Okay, because solving the matrix calculation for this much of higher order, it will be very difficult. Okay, so this problem will give you the entire idea how to solve any problem based on your truss element. Okay, so here you can put your global stiffness matrix. Okay, is this clear, or shall I explain this global stiffness matrix? Okay, I will explain it on the board. Okay, don't worry. Stop the screen share. Okay. Let me draw that truss configuration. That truss configuration is okay. Is this visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
So this is the truss configuration. I will explain you how to write that global stiffness matrix. Okay. Now, uh, let me use that same terminology that we are using here. This is your node number 1. This is your node number 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is your 6. Okay, and your node number, I will write this in circle. This circular numbers are representing numbers in the circle is representing your element number. Now I will write the number of nodes directly. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is your 5. I am assuming that now you people have written your or calculated your individual stiffness matrix. And now I am going to write here that global stiffness matrix. On this side up to where it is visible. Yeah, let me take it up to this location. Now, okay. Now what I will do, you can write here your numbers, what we have written over there, that is U1x, U1y, U2x, U2Y, U3X, U3Y, U4X, U4Y, U5X, and U5Y. On one side I have written like this. Similarly, you can either write on the top or here I am writing on the bottom, okay, because I have space over here. So you can write, okay, or let's write over here only. Then I have to delete this portion.
Sir, one number is lobby. Yeah.
Now here you can write, if someone is saying something, U1X, U1Y, U2X, U2Y, U3X, U3Y, U4X, U4Y, U5X, and U5Y. So I have written all the 10 numbers on the top as well as on your right hand side. Okay. Now, suppose
Hello,
your,
sir.
yes,
One member
Yes,
is in
say something.
lobby, sir.
Why they are joining
Yeah.
late? Okay. So I have written, all of you just pay attention here. I have written here on the top all the 10 values, on the right all the 10 values. Okay. Now, as we were doing in your first unit, like element number 1, element number 1 is connected between 1 and 2. 1 and 2. So identify where is 1 and 2. This is your line for 1 and 2. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 2. Very light line you can identify. Now from this side also you can draw a very light line to get all those 4 points for 1 and 2. So what? This is your location. This is your location. This is your location for writing your stiffness value for your element number 1. For element number 1, we have just now calculated your element stiffness matrix that was of the order of 4 cross 4. Similarly, suppose now I am taking element number 5. Element number 5 you can see here. Now I am taking this, it is between 2 and 5. So let's see, this is the line for 2 and this is the line for 5. This is the line for 5. So now what are the common points that we are getting? We need 4 cross 4 matrix. So this is your first place, second place, third and fourth. First, second, third and fourth. Likewise, you will get here also between 2 and 5. Yeah, here you have 2 and 5, 2 and 5. So now you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the place where you can write your values for element stiffness matrix number 5. Likewise, you have to put for all the elements one by one. Here we have 5 elements. So I have drawn a matrix of 10 cross 10. Similarly, based on the number of your nodes, you have to write your global stiffness matrix. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Suppose
Yes, sir.
one more element. So is it clear to all of you? So I can move ahead. My plan for today was that today I will uh, just give a 10 to 15 minutes of general idea how to solve numerical based on this trust problem. Since we are also observing that here the order of matrix is very high, so normally for such topic, derivations are asked in the examinations. Okay, if any numerical is asked also, that numerical will be of very small order. So you must focus on its derivation part. And I am telling you the steps how to solve the numericals, so that I will give you this problem to you as an assignment and you can try to solve it. That will give you some practice as well as you will gain the confidence. Okay. So suppose this element number 4, it is connected between 2 and 4. Okay. So you have to see where is your element 2. This is your 2 and this is your 4. 4. Very light lines you can use and then you can substitute your values. So again, here your third element will also come. So you have to add all those three values here at these locations. 4. And on this side also. And on this side also. Likewise, we'll get a global stiffness matrix. How to write this global stiffness matrix. This is the way. Okay. So in the examination, questions will be asked like, write the or derive the global stiffness matrix for your truss element, like that. Okay. Now, coming back to the problem, and now I hope it is clear to all of you how to solve or write the global stiffness matrix over here. Okay. Now, this is the final global matrix that you will receive by substituting all those values. Here 10 raised to 5 you can keep common outside. Okay. Now, coming to our next topic, that is your beam element. Okay. So now let's see what is beam first and then we will derive its shape function. So once again, I am telling you from this chapter, it is your unit number 3. In unit number 3, you have to study your truss element and your beam element. Mind it. Once again, I am telling you, truss element and beam element. Okay. So most common question that is normally asked in the examination is derive the stiffness matrix or transformation matrix for truss element, or in the examination question can be also like derive the shape function, derive the stiffness matrix for beam element. When I said shape function, what is shape functions we have already discussed in your unit number 1, but for this particular case I am telling you that for the beam, the shape function that we will derive, that is also called as Hermite shape function. So in your examination, the question can be asked like derive Hermite shape function for beam element. Okay, so let's see what is this beam and how to derive it. Beam plays a significant role in many engineering applications, including buildings, bridges, automobiles, and airplane structures. Okay. Beam is defined. This definition is very important. You might have studied from your strength of material. Okay. Beam is defined as a structural member whose cross-sectional dimensions are relatively smaller than its length. This definition is very important. That can be asked for your interview question. Beam is defined as a structural member whose cross-sectional dimension is relatively smaller than its length. Okay. Beams are commonly subjected to transverse loading, which is a type of loading that creates bending in the beam. Okay, here we are talking about bending of the beam. When we are discussing truss element, we have studied truss elements can either be subjected to compression or tension. Okay, there we don't have any bending load. Okay, there what we were having only either tension or compression like that. Okay. So here you have transverse loading. So transverse loading can create bending in the beam. Okay. So let's see here. In the previous topic, we have defined trusses as the structures consisting of two force members. Moreover, recall when using a truss model to analyze a physical problem, all loads are assumed to apply at the joint. That is one more point. When we are studying this truss element, you have seen that all the loads are applied only at the joints, or you can say the nodes of the truss. Therefore, there is no bending of the members are allowed. Okay. Note that for a structural member that is considered as beam, loads can be applied anywhere along the beam length. You might have studied in your strength of material uniformly distributed load, uniformly varying load. Okay, so loads can be applied at anywhere along its length, and loading will create bending in the beam. It is important to make these distinctions when modeling a physical problem. So I hope now the difference between your beam and truss is clear to you. In your truss, we were considering only tensile as well as compressive loading, but whereas in your beam, we can go for transverse loading that will create bending. So this figure will give you a clear picture. Here you can see uniformly distributed load is applied on this beam. The cross section of the beam is written here, drawn here. This is your neutral axis, okay, and this is your uniformly distributed load, and here you can see your V is representing what? It is deflection about your deflection of your beam points about this neutral axis in vertical direction. This is your V. Okay, now this is the sign conventions that is normally followed in your mechanics, that when the beam will try to bend like this, then this here we will take positive sign, and for such kind of condition we will take negative sign. Like this bending equation, this is derived bending equation. These things also you have studied in your strength of material. I have written these things just to give you a small revision kind of thing. So before we proceed for finite element formulation, our objective is finite element formulation of beam. This is the heading, finite element formulation of beam. So we should define what we mean by beam element. It is an element consisting of two nodes. At each node, there are 2 degrees of freedom, a vertical displacement, a rotation angle. Okay, there in truss, we were going for 2 degrees of freedom. One along the axis of your element, and another one was perpendicular to it. But here we are considering at each node, this is your node number 1, and this is your node number 2. Okay, you can see here, as I said you, at every node we are considering 2 degrees of freedom. Your vertical displacement in positive y direction represented by this small v. So for node number 1, it is written v1. Vertical displacement is a resultant or the output of your force applied F1. Okay. Similarly, due to this moment, here you can see one is applied. Due to this moment, there is some rotation that is written by. So here, phi1 and v1 is your at node number 1. Similarly, for node number 2, freedom are V2 and phi2. Okay, so here we have, here also we have 4 degrees of freedom for element. Okay, now we will go into its derivation. What is the time? It's 2:16. Your class is up to what time? 2:30.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have
More
10.
14 minutes.
Huh?
More 14 minutes, sir.
We have 14 minutes time. So we can go for its derivation. Let's start. So we will start this solution. Assume the transverse displacement variation throughout the element or throughout this element length V, Vx equals to this expression. Okay. So
220 only, sir.
what happened?
Till 220 only, sir.
Your class is up to 2:20 only. And after this, do you have any lecture?
No, sir.
Okay, so let me continue this. Okay, if you have any class, you tell me, I will stop. If you have no classes, I will finish this beam element also. So shall I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's do it. So here, this is very important. Now, the next 10 minutes is very important, that can give you either that truss derivation or this beam derivation. Any one of those derivation will definitely come in your examination, your external examination or internal examination. Okay. So if that question is asked for beam element, you have to draw this diagram. What you can see here, you have to write all those notations that you can see here, that this element is of length L, this is representing your x-axis and this is representing your y-axis. Okay, at node number 1, force F1y is acting and moment M1 is acting, and displacement V1 and rotation phi1 is your degree of freedom at node number 1. Similarly, for your node number 2, F2y is acting and M2 is acting. Moment M2, force F2. What will be its degree of freedom? Its degree of freedom will be V2 and phi2. So here we have 4 unknowns. So now we will consider, or we will assume, a transverse displacement function throughout this element. See here, it is written by Vx. V is what? V is your vertical displacement of your beam in positive y direction, and this x is representing at different locations what is the value of V. Okay, so I have drawn these small arrows to give you some basic idea about it. Now, here we have 4 unknowns. That's why we have considered this polynomial equation with 4 unknowns. What are those unknowns? A1, A2, A3, and A4. Okay, so 4 unknowns, V1, phi1, V2, phi2. That's why we have taken a polynomial equation of 4 unknowns. A1 x cube plus A2 x square plus A3 x plus A4. Okay. Now, the complete cubic displacement function is appropriate because there are total 4 degrees of freedom, transverse displacement Vi, and a small rotation phi I at each node. The cubic function also satisfied this basic beam differential equation, further justifying its selection. In addition, this cubic function also satisfies the condition of displacement slope continuity at nodes shared between 2 elements. Okay, so you have to draw this diagram and you have to write this equation. Okay, and thereafter you have to now write down the boundary conditions. Okay, boundary conditions, how we will write, let's see. See here, this is our equation, and we know that at x equals to 0, at x equals to 0 means where is x equals to 0? X is equals to 0 at node number 1. X equals to 0. Let me clear it. X equals to 0 at node number 1. So V will be equals to V1. So you simply put here in this equation x equals to 0. So this term will become 0, x cube, x is 0. This will also become 0. This will also become 0. A4 is constant and here you will get V1. So from here you can write A4 equals to V1. That is what I have written here. At V equals to V1 at x equals to 0. So you will get A4 equals to V1. Now, dV by you can calculate dV by dx. Here, function with respect to x is given to you on your screen. You can easily calculate its differential, that is dV by dx. Okay, so what will be its differential? 3a1 x square plus 2a2 x plus a3. Now substitute that value. X equals to 0. Okay, so dV by dx, what is that dV by dx? dV by dx is nothing but the slope. It is the slope you can see here. And that slope is nothing but your phi, that is your rotation. Okay, so here dV by dx is when you substitute x equals to 0 in that equation, you will get A3 equals to phi 1. Okay, so one simple method, I will give you one trick. At x equals to 0 for Vx and dV by dx, your values are V1 and phi 1 as we have written or discussed here, V1 and phi 1. Similarly, when x equals to L at node number 2, x is equals to L, the length of the element. At this location, your V is equals to V2 and phi equals to phi 2. Okay, so that value we will substitute now. V at x equals to L and dV by dx at x equals to L. So this phi is nothing but dV by dx. So we have written phi 2 and V2 and phi 2. So you will get this equation and this equation. Now, here we have four unknowns, A1, A2, A3, A4. And you have four equations as well. Equation 1, equation 2, equation 3, and equation number 4. Four equations, four unknowns, you solve it. When you solve it and substitute the values of A1, A2, A3 and A4, you will get this expression. What is written over here? Okay, I am leaving it for you. You can solve it on your notebook as an assignment and you can check whether you are getting this value or not. V equals to what you have to substitute in the previous equation. This equation you have to substitute the value of A1, A2, A3, A4 and then you will get this expression. Now, here you have to little bit careful and observe this equation. Is there any specific pattern over here? Yes, here you have one pattern. Here you can see four terms, V1, V2, phi 1, phi 2. So you can separate all the coefficients of V1, all the coefficients of V2, all the coefficients of phi 1, all the coefficients of phi 2 and you can write it in a matrix form. And that matrix, or if you will solve it, you will get this as your coefficient for V1, this as your coefficient for V2. No, this is for phi 1. This you will get for V1. This you will get for phi 1. And let me change the color. Now for V2 you will get this as your coefficient, and for phi 2 you will get this n4 what is written over here. Okay, so this V1, phi 1, V2, phi 2, these are the coefficients that I have written here as n1, n2, n3 and n4. So this n1, n2, n3 and n4 are nothing but they are the shape functions also called as Hermite cubic interpolation functions. So this is what will be asked in your examination, that derive Hermite cubic interpolation function. So this is what you have to derive it. Okay, the value of n1, n2, n3 and n4. This is nothing but your what we have calculated b equals to that we have written in the form of matrix that we were doing in your unit number 1 and unit number 2. Same we have done here also. Okay. So, using your strength of material concept, as we have written in your previous slide, I have shown you here, yeah, at this location, that what is moment and what is your this uh, deflection. Okay, so based on that, you can calculate your deflection due to your force and moment due to your moment at node number 1 and node number 2 by simply derivating what you have obtained this expression b. You have to do double derivative of this and you have to do triple derivative of this. So when you will do this triple derivative, you will get it vertical deflection, and when you will do this double derivative, you will get its moment value. So here from here you will get four expressions, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Again here is one pattern. You can see V1, phi 1, V2, phi 2. Again you can write it into a matrix form, these equations, and you will get it like this. F1y M1 F2y M2 equals to, this will be your matrix 12, 6 minus 12, 6. Here you can see this is your 12, 6 minus 12 and plus 6. Okay. Similarly 6, 4 minus 6, 2. 6, 4 minus 6, 2. So this you have to, with practice you will, right now you must be thinking that it is very complicated, but this is very simple. Once you practice it one times or two times, you will find it very much easy as well as scoring also. So this is your finally stiffness matrix for beam element. So in your examination, either it will be asked to derive stiffness matrix of beam element, then you have to derive it up to this step. If it is asking for shape functions or Hermite cubic interpolation function, this term is written, then you have to derive it up to N1, N2, N3 and N4. Okay, so this is your beam element. So once you will do it of your own using your notebook and pen, then you will find it easier. What I will do for your practice, the lecture video I will upload to your Canvas. I am uploading it regularly. You can cross check your Canvas, and today you practice both the derivations, derivation for truss and derivation for this beam element. One more lecture we will get on Saturday. If you are having any issue, any confusion on any step, I will clarify on Saturday class. Okay. So that's all from my side. If you have any question, you can now ask me. Or else let me download your attendance first. Where is the list of attendance? Yeah. List of participants. Download attendance list. Yeah, downloaded. Okay, so I'm going to stop this screen share. Okay, now if you have anything to ask me, you can ask me, or else we will stop here. But practice today. All of you must practice both the derivations at your home. I will upload it to your Canvas, the video, recorded video of this class, as well as I will put that PowerPoint file also for your better understanding. Okay, so today and tomorrow you practice, and on Saturday class, Saturday we have one class. If you are having any doubt, I will clarify it. Now, one by one, you leave the meeting, then I will stop this meeting. Yes, still I can see 6 participants. Now you can leave the meeting.